I said this with the Warriors. They're not there yet, but Steph will be 38 next year.
Mm-hmm.
They made the move for Butler because they wanted to squeeze every last win out of Steph.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of their Jeter, untradeable player, their Elway.
Yeah.
And there's very few of those, but Jeter, Elway kind of feel like Steph.
Yes.
Can't trade him. And so I'm sitting there thinking, you don't want the Kobe tour, the last 3 years, which was unserious basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be the Bucks where you grab, and you wake up and you're like, we're a first-round exit team. I look at the Warriors. They don't have their GPS system when Steph doesn't play, and he's 38. He's running 1.75 miles to 2 miles every big game. OKC, Houston, all these, San Antonio. You look up and you go, guys, we're going to bring this back. Couldn't I argue? Kuminga doesn't work with Steph.
Right.
If they get extinguished here very quickly by Minnesota, my guess without Steph, they will.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do going forward? Great coach, Steph, and great culture is not going forward. You're at best fourth in the West.
Well, if there is a silver lining to the Steph Curry injury, which, by the way, obviously the Warriors would rather not have, it's that Jonathan Kuminga has gotten to play more and show what value he brings. Because really the issue is it's not that he can't play with Steph, it's that he can't play with Steph and Jimmy. There's not room for him when those two other guys are on the floor. Now that Steph's off the floor, it's him and Jimmy, and they can play well together. And also Kuminga had a great game, right? Even in the loss. So the silver lining, if they do lose this series and Steph can't come back, is now you have a much more tradable asset in Jonathan Kuminga than you did even a week and a half ago.
Right.
Because in the first round, it was like, he's not even good enough to make the rotation, right? What kind of asset is he? Nobody's going to want him. Now everyone's like, oh, okay, it really was just scheme, and therefore he's an asset. I don't think either way this is going to be similar to the Kobe situation or the Giannis situation, because on both of those teams, you really had one elite guy, right? On this team, you have Steph, you have Draymond, you have Jimmy. Now, they're all aging. I get that. But those are all kinds of players that can make a difference in the game the way the guys on Kobe's team couldn't, the way the guys on Giannis's team can't this year. And I don't know, when Steph heard that they were making the Jimmy trade, his quote to Draymond was, "This is it. This is our last ride."
Yeah.
And I think they all know it and they believe it. And they think that with this group, they can really make an impact and maybe get to finals again. And by the way, it looked like it, toward the end of the season and early in the playoffs.
So the Celtics season may very well come down to tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The way they won in blowout fashion, generally speaking, the zigzag theory, on the road, New York will be ready to roll tonight. And there has been a question. Boston, from Danny Ainge to Brad Stevens, they are proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
And they're not moving Tatum. But if they lose to the Knicks, there is a sense that they could look up and go, listen, we don't want to be Milwaukee and Denver.
Right.
We've got Tatum. We've got new owners, may want to shed. I mean, their salary now is like $500 million if they just sign their first-round pick. I mean, Rachel, to me, if the Knicks win tonight, and I think it's a 3 or 4 point game, J-Mac, find the spread on that. I think they're going to make an aggressive move. Could they not make a Giannis package?
I'm not sure they could with their picks and other situation. And again, if I am the Bucks, I would not trade him within the conference.
Right.
Again, Drew Holiday. By the way, can you imagine with the Celtics? Can you imagine if they also gave them Giannis? Oh, here's Giannis and Drew. I don't see that happening. However, I do think, look, this is a $500 million payroll with all of the luxury tax and second apron and eighth apron and all of that the Celtics are going to have to play under new ownership, to your point. And look, if they go back and win another finals, and I still think they're the favorite, even down 2-1 in this series, it's going to be hard to break that team up.
Of course.
Two titles in a row?
You'll tweak it a little, though.
I think you've got to pay those guys and just bite the bullet and try to keep winning. But if it's a second-round exit, it kind of gives you an excuse if you're ownership or if you're the front office to say, well, clearly this isn't quite working the way it was before. Now we can, kind of mess with the roster a little bit and certainly cut payroll. And we'll just have to see if that happens. I still think the Celtics are going to come out of this series, and I think they have a really good chance to win the title. That's no disrespect to New York. I mean, I think it would be great for the league to have the New York Knicks advance.
Yeah.
Because it has been a very long time.
Right.
And I just think the excitement in the Garden, we've seen it. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's electric. Totally electric.
And unlike some other New York Knicks teams or big market teams where people around the country, they hate the Yankees, that kind of thing. This Knicks team is so scrappy and fun and young.
They're perfect for New York.
A lot of people around the country who would say hate the Yankees will still really get behind and like watching this New York Knicks team.
Yeah.
So if they win, and I agree with you tonight, is just pivotal. I mean, I think it's a must-win for the Knicks, certainly, right? Who knows? But the Celtics' point differential throughout the season, they were 16 points ahead on average in the games they played the Knicks. Not only did they win 4-0 in the season series, they won by an average of 16 points.
Yeah.
And in each of these games, they've been up 20 points.
No, we've talked about this. The NBA's willingness to swallow the whistle and let games be physical has absolutely benefited the Knicks' OG body type, physicality.
Yeah.
The NBA is allowing less skilled teams to body up and push you around. That's why I thought Denver would give OKC some problems, because they're big, veterans, physical. So Jokic is great. They have no bench.
Right.
And, I think a lot of people look at Denver. I do, and certainly thought 3 years ago, could they be the Spurs? Is he their Duncan? But then they didn't keep people. They look at the Michael Porter contract now. They paid one too many people. And Jokic looks gassed.
Oh, he looks exhausted.
Didn't they draft a big and he got hurt?
Look, the thing with Jokic is he had to push them through the end of the season. Remember the 60-point games, the this, the that, just to keep them out of the play-in, right? There was such a scramble for seeding in the West. He had to give it his all every night and carry this team. Now, they played, I think, 7 games in the last 13 days. I mean, that is asking too much of him, especially, I know they're used to playing at altitude. It's their altitude.
Well, they played
but it's
late
still
Friday
altitude.
and early Sunday.
Right. And I just think that the Thunder are deeper, certainly. I mean, they won that game yesterday because of their bench.
Yeah.
And they're the youngest team in the NBA. Let's not forget that. If you look at teams across the league and you say, okay, on one day's rest, when there's only one day between games, who is the best? Not only are the Thunder the best, they're the best by about 17 points. I mean, it's crazy. Where the Nuggets, when they have one day of rest, they're better than their opponents by about 3 points. So you just look at this schedule, you look at what Jokic has had to do. This is the problem with having a rotation that is only 6 guys. And by the way, the 6th guy is Russell Westbrook. I keep saying to you, it's a box of chocolates with Russ. You never know what you're going to get.
Right.
Well, yesterday was like when you get one of those like gross orange cream chocolates or something.
Nobody likes those.
Not good. Not good.